Hey everybody, it's me, Alex, once again, and today we're going to be doing a controller review, and I haven't seen many videos on this particular controller. Now, what you see before you is just a regular GameCube controller, the Smash Bros. Variant. It's not the HORI one, where it has the extra Z button. It's a regular ARS controller, and let me say, one of the best controllers ever made. But it does have a few problems. Let me see. Let me show you. Let me see. Let me show you what the problems are. I mean, first, you have to kind of like grip it very strangely. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like not ergonomic. You have to kind of like bend your thumbs inward to use the sticks a little bit rather than just like resting them straight like this. So it's a little small. And I know I'm not good at explaining this, but it's like, what the hell is he talking about? It's like, well, basically, if this were up a bit more, maybe it'd be a bit better. I don't know. And the D-pad itself, sure, it clicks in very well, but the problem is that it doesn't really respond well. I've been using the Game Boy Advance player lately to really test this thing out, and walking around in like Pokemon Emerald is really a pain in the ass, just because like this thing feels like not as bad as the 360 control. Well, not as bad as the 360 D-pad, but I don't know. Like sometimes the D-pads are tight and they can barely move, and sometimes they're pretty loose like this one. But even so, it's still kind of small and it just feels kind of awkwardly placed. Now we have the start button here, clearly, and no problems with this. I wish it was a little bit bigger, and it feels just fine. C-stick feels a little funny, but you know, it feels about the same as the left stick. But I don't know. It feels like it's in a little bit of a too close place where you're bending your thumbs again like this constantly. And the face buttons are just fine. They feel great. You know, I have no issues with these whatsoever. Z button, perfectly fine as well. And the L and R buttons, perfectly fine. And yeah, that's all I can say about that, right? You know, it's a pretty good controller. But there is an alternative. The alternative is honestly, in my opinion, a bit better if you turn your brain off on what this thing is. And that is the HORI Nintendo GameCube pad. Now, if you kind of look at this closely, you can kind of tell that it looks like the N64 HORI pad. Now, and the cool thing about that is they were the ones that came up with the technology for what Nintendo would use for this right here. And I was like, okay, so basically, since this is made by HORI, and this is probably back when the GameCube was relevant, when it was made, everything should feel the same. You know, the thumbstick feels exactly the same. You can definitely tell just by flicking it, the sound is exactly the same. The, sorry if I sound like I'm dying of breathing, but geez, this angle is weird. And the C-stick feels exactly the same. It's a little bit different in terms of the texture around the button, or not button, the C-stick like icon and the thumbstick rubber. It looks a little different, but not by much. And then the D-pad. This D-pad is actually really good. It's a little bit bigger than the other one, and it feels like it's a little bit better placed, in my opinion. That's because when you hold, you know, the controller like this, you know, it feels ergonomic. Yeah, we'll get to those up there in a moment. But yeah, like you can hold it just like this, and it's like super comfortable. You know, it's like you're playing with an Xbox controller, somewhat, I'd say. So anyway, the D-pad. The D-pad is a lot more responsive, and it's a little bit bigger, and it just and it feels like the Sega Dreamcast Lite thumbstick or N64 thumbstick plastic. And it's not bad. You don't slip off whatsoever. Rotates very well, soft, not like no, that sounds really bad out of context. But you know, it's freaking good. Like, it's actually responsive, and I've been playing Pokemon with it, and it responds absolutely perfectly. Now, the start button's a lot bigger, and it feels great. It doesn't feel like that like click sound when you click it in. You got more of a, you know, soft press. It's very nice, and it's a lot easier to reach with my hand while I'm playing the game, rather than on a regular GameCube controller. You kind of have to really reach on that. Now let's talk about the face buttons. Now, I should say I did have a problem with the other controller that I didn't know I had a problem with until this came along and fixed it. Now, let's just start with the, A, B, X, Y. So A, now it feels like it's a little bit more hollow, just a little bit, but it has a little bit more pressure, a little more push to it, I should say. And it's great. It's not that cheap Mad Catz crap where you get when you push it, it's like it clicks in hard. I hate that crap. And then you have the Y, perfectly the same, I'd say. Maybe a little bit more hollow, but they're a little closer to the A button, but I never really had a problem with that. Makes it easier to push this button for like F-Zero or something to boost. Now the B button. The B button is really good. They made it bigger, and instead of it being like a straight off edge like on the regular GameCube controller, which is kind of hard to show, whoop, like it's just sharp at the end. And it can kind of wear on your thumb from the sharp edge. Maybe that could just be me, but they rounded it off and they made it bigger. Let me tell you, so much better. So much better. Now, let's see. Now what do we have on the top? We have two Z buttons. I'm not sure why we have a Z button on the side over on the left, but we have this weird feeling of a click. But they're not too hard to click in. Sometimes they're a little difficult at first, but you gotta wear them in at first. And the L and R buttons, same technology. Sorry for the crack. Same technology that Nintendo would use for theirs. So that's pretty freaking cool. And they're a little bit more raised up than the regular GameCube controller, but you get used to that pretty quickly. Now on the back, you can see that there's no like fancy like design like this, like see through in the like middle under the start button here. Nothing crazy like this. You got more of just regular design of everything. And apparently you can switch out button parts too with the regular GameCube controller if you don't like the L and R buttons or something like that. I don't know what else you can do, but it's pretty damn cool. Now, I make a big deal about the feeling of the controller because I've gone through a decent chunk of third-party controllers in the, past, let's say, 2 decades now since the GameCube has been out, and a lot of them were so bad. Thumbsticks felt so off. Like both of them. D-pads were garbage. A and B, X, Y were like super hard to push in, or if they did, they didn't respond properly. The L and R buttons were probably the only decent things about them, and maybe the Z button. And the design sometimes was okay, but this controller right here, this is the best third-party controller I've ever used on a Nintendo console. Like you can use it for Smash Bros, man. Like it's really damn good. You just gotta forget that you're using it at like a HORI gamepad. Just think you're using it as a GameCube controller, and it feels natural. It doesn't make you feel like, oh wow, I'm actually this feels a little off. This isn't the actual controller. No, it doesn't have that weird feeling. It's that similar. So, what do you guys think? Let me know below. I haven't seen many people talking about this. It's about $50-ish, $60-ish, or they could come in different colors. Like another one was like red, probably blue, green. But I got mine in like black, and they're all see-through. But it's kind of hard to see through the controller on the camera. But yeah, it's pretty freaking good stuff, and you might want to grab them before they go up in price because I can see that happening soon. I don't know why. Everything on GameCube is just going up in price. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this controller below. If you've ever heard of it, are you gonna get it? Is it bad to you if you've ever used it? I don't know. Let me know below. Anyway, my name is Alex. I'll be seeing you next time. Farewell.